So, once again, good morning to all of you. And it is my absolute pleasure to welcome all of you to this 23rd HR conference organized by Ahmedabad Management Association. This is one of the flagship event of AMA, and every year there are many HR professionals who wait for this day to come, a day for new learnings, a day for getting new insights, new perspectives, learning new good practices in the industry. This year, the theme is the future of HR, trends shaping 2025 and beyond. And this could not be more relevant because we stand at a crossroads of exponential technological change, shifting workplace dynamics, and evolving human capital landscape. HR is no longer just a support function, but it has become a nerve center of any forward-looking organization. As a conference coordinator, I am delighted to take you through a carefully crafted, curated day of learning and learning new perspectives and new things. Now, on behalf of AMA, I will request Executive Director Unmesh Dixit ji to formally welcome all the guests and all the delegates. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, all the HR professionals and students. On behalf of Ahmedabad Management Association, we are very happy to welcome you for the 23rd HR conference. Kamal Bhai will be leading the show, and Deepak Bhai will be also coordinating during the day. So one uniqueness about Kamal Bhai, he is coming here every year, and this is his 23rd year as participant of HR conference, and now he's also a coordinator. And he is, Kamal Bhai, going to lead you for the whole day. Thank you very much, Kamal Bhai. My immediate past president, Mr. Divesh Arya, our chairman for Extension Committee, Mr. Padmin Buch, our governing council member, Mr. Sailesh Goyal, all the speakers, thank you very much for joining us. This time it is a new topic, new theme, new speakers, and a new way of presentation, along with a formal, if I can say, launch of our HT Parekh new look, the digital look. I hope you all will like it, those who are coming here regularly. And we are going towards more and more digitalization. Happy learning, happy networking. Have a good time ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Unmesh Bhai. So we will begin our conference with a keynote speech, and our keynote speaker will be addressing us on the theme of today's conference. So let me introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Stephan Meier. He would be addressing virtually to us. Professor Stephan Meier is currently the chair of Management Division and James Gorman Professor of Business at Columbia Business School. He holds a PhD in economics from the University of Zurich. He was previously a senior economist at the Center for Behavioral Economics and Decision-Making at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, and taught courses on strategic interactions and economic policy at Harvard University and University of Zurich. His research interest is in behavioral strategy. He investigates the impact of psychology and economics on human decision-making and its implications for public policy and firms' strategy. Current research topics include how non-selfish behavior affect organizations or the effect of borrowers' decision-making on financial institution strategy. Our keynote speaker is honored by many organizations in the world, and today he will be sharing his thoughts on today's theme of the conference. May I request the media team for this Stephan sir's address.
Good morning, Ahmedabad. Thank you so much for the Ahmedabad Management Association for your gracious invitation and warm welcome. I would especially like to extend my gratitude to the president of the association, Dr. Savan Godiawala, and the vice president, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, and the distinguished board members of the AMA for the honor of inviting me as the keynote speaker of this 23rd annual HR conference. I was really delighted to hear that AMA has been recognized as the best local management association 20 times by All Indian Management Association. A remarkable and well-deserved achievement, and really congratulations to the entire team. It's truly a pleasure to be part of this meaningful gathering and to share the platform with a group of very distinguished and insightful speakers. And I really look forward to engage in thoughtful discussions and exchange ideas that shape the future of human resource management. As a professor and behavioral economist at the Columbia Business School, my work really centers on the human side of strategy. My research explores topics at the intersection of behavioral economics, business strategy, and the future of work. I think areas that are increasingly crucial as organizations navigate the evolving landscape of workforce dynamics and decision-making in this digital area. So I'm really excited to share some of those insights with you today, and I look forward to learning from your experience as well. So thanks once again for this opportunity to talk to you at this 23rd annual HR conference of AMA. Thank you so much again for having me and be able to talk about my new book, The Employee Advantage, How Putting Workers First Help Business Thrive. So, this conference is called Trends, the future trend. Now, it's hard to speculate nowadays what the future really looks like, but I think something we're all aware of is that it's going to be a human-machine interaction future. Every human being is going to work with a machine, AI or not, together. And obviously, we're talking about this all the time, constantly. However, when you look at the data, we haven't reached the full potential. Productivity gains are relatively modest, despite the fact that we're deploying and talking about machines all the time. And I think we're over-indexed. The reason, I think, is because we over-indexed on the technology side and didn't spend that much time on the human aspect. And so I think this conference is extra important to do that. So let me put a quote on by the head of AI at Morgan Stanley, one of the largest and most important investment banks in the world. And Jeff McMillan here says, the tech is actually the easy part. The hard part are the humans, and that's exactly where you come in. That's exactly where my book comes in. In fact, the same Jeff McMillan says, while the book has nothing to do with AI, it actually has everything to do with AI, because in a world in which AI will enable our people, it's all about human-machine interaction. It's about this human or employee-centric approach to the future of work. And I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about that insight and hopefully spur something that will continue throughout the conference. The main insight that I'm talking about a lot is this metaphor that the employees are actually the new customers. Now, what do I mean with that? What I mean with that is that the same forces that led to customer centricity are also leading to employee centricity, number one. The second is technology is used to improve the customer experience and should do the same for when we think about the employee experience. And third, I think if you put the employees first, you will gain an advantage as an organization. Same with customer centricity. If you put customer first, the organization will win. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Now, the sad truth is that we are not there yet. In fact, when I looked about how often executives talk about employees or customers, there is a stark asymmetry. What you see in those graphs is a time series up to the pandemic, and it plots how often executives talk about employees compared to customers. So when it starts in 2007, it's about 8 times more So they talk 8 times more about customers than their employees, and it's going to go up to about 14 times almost. So on average, it's about 10 times more. Not so surprisingly, people are disengaged at work. So here is Gallup study that did that now for a long time. This is the number from 2023. It's the same last year. Actually, it got a little worse. That in the US alone, there are about 65% who are disengaged, or 67%. And worldwide, that number is even greater. So we need to change that. And you, as HR leaders, actually need to change that and be part of spearheading that. I think it requires at least 2 mindset shifts. The first mindset shift is moving away from thinking either or, either the employee win or the company win, to a win-win situation. So let's think back about employees as the new customers. For customers, we obviously think about if we make the life of the customers better, we're going to win as an organization. They're going to be happy, and we're going to be happy too. The same has to be true when we think about employees. And the data is pretty clear. So here's a case study. Costco is a retailer in the US. He says this is not about altruism, and they're particularly employee-centric, but not because they just care about the employees. They probably also do, but it's actually good business. And here the Costco president and CEO says, it actually creates a significant competitive advantage. You see it also in the data in general. Here is data on that looks at company well-being, and that's not wellness. This is actually how employees are doing and how they're treated, and it correlates very strongly with all stuff that we care about, firm value, the return on asset, or profit. So we really need to think about our employees very differently as win-win. I think it's also because the same forces that actually led to customer centricity are also affecting employee centricity. If you think about what led to customer centricity is, there's speed of innovation. We actually need to come up with new stuff that the customers want. Now, guess what? The employee are actually the one who are agile, so we need to treat them better. Transparency on the experience for the customers is improving. I think TripAdvisor, all those review sites, or when something goes wrong in the experience, they share it with everybody. Of course, that's also true for internal, like Glassdoor, Indeed. If you screw up in the experience, it goes viral, and every potential employee knows. There is obviously more data about the customer that allows us to personalize the experience we have on Amazon, on Netflix, and whatever. There is also more data for our employees, so this one size fits all doesn't really work anymore. And last but not least, preferences are changing. Customers want more, they want purpose, they want other aspects. The experience matter. Now, those are the same human beings, obviously, that are our customers and then work in our company. So all those trends that really led from a product-centric view to a customer-centric view will make the employees more important, as it did with the customers. The second mindset shift is moving away from thinking the only way to motivate people is by doing it with money or perks like ping pong tables or yoga classes or free massages or whatever, to moving around thinking really what motivates employees. Now, think again about this analogy with customers and employees. Customer centricity is not lowering the price. Even though customers obviously care about the price, customer centricity is improving the experience, and as a result, you can actually increase the price. And the same here, if we move away of thinking about it's just a wage or it's just money, and think about what really motivates people, that's how we actually improve the experience. Now, the big question obviously is what motivates humans? Why do people actually work? And I think the research is pretty clear on that dimension. There are 4 factors that motivate employees and can now be used to humanize work even further. So let me quickly go through those 4 to kind of talk about all of that. The first one is purpose, or I call it shoot for the moon. People are really motivated if they have a higher purpose. And I'm using here the example of NASA, the US Space Agency. When President Kennedy became president and also the head of NASA, he changed the mission to one mission. They had multiple missions before, and he said, our only mission is to bring a man to the moon within 7 years. Now, that was very, very ambitious. At that point, they were only able to bring a man out of orbit for like 30 seconds. Very, very far away from landing on the moon, which is the easy part. The hard part is taking off from the moon again and bringing the boys home. But this mission was very, very motivating for the organization, so they actually strived that within the 7 years. And that famous quote from that janitor who says, like, I'm not mopping the floor, I'm bringing a man to the moon, shows that within the organization, everybody was really jazzed in doing so. And that's way beyond like just putting it in the wall and say like, that's our mission. It actually has to be lived and felt by the employees. So that's number one. Number second is autonomy. People are extremely motivated by having discretion, by being empowered. Now, the flip side of that, that's why I call it a matter of trust. In order to give autonomy, you have to trust your employees. And that's a really important way of thinking about how to organize the work in a way that empowers their employees so that they feel this autonomy. The third one is competence. I call it just right tasks. It goes back to a story experience that I have with my son when he started reading, and it was a daily struggle for him to actually read. So he was required to read for 30 minutes every single day, and it's like every single day it was a fight with him to do those 30 minutes. And I told him, like, dude, come home, read for 30 minutes, and then you can do whatever you want. You can play FIFA until you have like squared eyes. I don't care. But he didn't get it until one day he pulled me into a bookstore. The bookstore he would like avoid like the plague, and so like, I want to buy a set of books. In fact, that part of set of books, the Weird School book series by Dan Goodman, and he read many, many more of those books. And why it was so motivated, it was just right for his reading level. It was not too easy, or a baby book, as you would say, and it was not too hard, like when he wanted to read Harry Potter when he was 6 years old. It was just right. Now, after this just right phase, that became a baby book. So he moved on to the next series, and then he read that, which was just right for his level. Now, that's a very, very human, universal motivator, that we want to have motivation, skill tasks that are optimal for our skill level and constantly learn. I'm going to say a little bit more about this in just a second. And then just to finish up, the fourth one is working together works, or relatedness. Everybody who played in sports team that was very good. It's like, that's something that creates, like, it's more than the individual parts. You can be in a team, whether in work or in sports, where like the culture and something about it is just like very, very motivating. But that needs a lot of intentionality. Just because we're together, it doesn't create that. In fact, when we're together, there are often a lot of toxicity. Humans can be also like really nasty. And so as leaders, we need to organize this really well. Now, you can think about those four motivators. And first of all, think about like, how can we now innovate to humanize the work? And or think about, what would be the human-centric, employee-centric of work look like? How can we now use technology, AI in particular, let's say, to humanize work even more? How can we go through all those four, and create more purposeful one? How can we think autonomy, and so on? How can we do just right tasks, working together works? Now, I don't have time in this keynote to go through all of them, so let's focus on one and show you one particular one that illustrates kind of how you can use it. I'm going to focus on this just right task. And you now know the story already about the book, so sometimes I tell, you see it, like not every organization actually does this well. So if you look at the stats, about 40% of employees, they quote this lack of growing, learning something new as the number one reason why they leave. So it's not the money that they leave, it's like the growth opportunity. Only about a quarter are actually reported to being encouraged to learn something new, and about 80% report the problem of talent hoarding. Now, talent hoarding means that the managers don't want their best employees to go. Not so surprisingly, you know, I'm in a team, and like I have Deepak, you know, he's my best worker. I don't want him to leave, but the problem is eventually he will actually leave the organization completely if I hoard onto that talent and don't let him or her develop. So sometimes I tell them, my executives, okay, now that you know this, now you just need to find for every one of your employees what's the just right task, match it with that task, and constantly update. Because once those employees are learning it, they need to learn something new. They look at me as if I have three heads. And they're like, well, that's really, really difficult to do. You know, whether you have a team of 20 or a team of 200 or even more, it's really difficult. Now, doesn't it sound a little bit like an AI task? That's exactly what Netflix does. Netflix knows, okay, Stephan, he really likes to watch nature documentaries. So let's show him more nature documentaries. While John or Maria, you know, they watch something else. They show them more of that stuff. Once I'm bored with nature documentaries, Netflix will, oh, Stephan actually watches now dramas. Let's show him more dramas. So it learns over time and is able to adapt. Now we can think about how can we apply this also internally to those just right tasks. And there are now actually ways of doing it. It's called internal marketplaces. They're AI-powered tool. MasterCard is one of those organizations that uses them. And what it basically does is employees can go on the platform, say, I want to learn something new. I want to have a different experience. It matches it then to tasks or projects within the organization. I work on that project for a while in basically my spare time or next to what I do. The IT then learns, oh, Stephan now knows something else, and it can give me even better matches over time. When I talked to the CHRO of MasterCard, Michael Ficara, he knows that this internal marketplaces kind of now changes everything we do. The whole fabric of how we do workforce planning, how we do the design, upskilling, reskilling, democratizes really the workforce. I mean, they apply it now to mentoring and so on and so forth. Since they started right after the pandemic, they unlocked, that's the name of their platform, unlocked 1 million hours through that platform, and it is really, really powerful in their design. This is now another way of like it personalizes the experience as we do with our customers. So let me come back to that and then wrap it up. You know, the employees really are the new customers. Now that has implications because we now can think about what we do with our customers. We can think about the tools we're using. But while you probably think like, well, that's easy to do, it is hard. It's really hard. Now, hard is good because it distinguishes it from in the competition. So let me put a quote up from an organization that is very customer-centric, and then think about what does that mean for when we think about employees. So this is Jeff Bezos. You know, it says like, customers are always beautifully, wonderful, dissatisfied, you know, even if they're happy. Now, he basically says it's great to have customers that are not happy. But what he means is now we can actually use this to constantly improve, to always figure out how can we do that better. Now, thinking about employees as the new customers, change all the customer words with employees. Very few leaders say that, but they should. They should think about, you know, the employees are really wonderful, dissatisfied. And now we can use that, even if they seem happy and we're doing great, because now we can constantly improve doing forward. And you as HR leaders are at the forefront of doing so. So let me wrap up. You know, this employee-centric future of work really takes human motivation into account. And the evidence is pretty clear. There are those 4 motivators, purpose, autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And now you use technology, AI or not, to humanize work even more. And as a result, those organizations who do that hard work to actually improve the employee experience really get the employee advantage. So thank you so much for taking the time. I'm looking forward to all the insights that now happen at the conference, and hopefully in those discussions, you're using a little bit like employees are the new customers. And then you're gonna please share it with me, what you learned, the new insights, what you do in an organization, so that you're gonna have an amazing and very productive 23rd annual HR conference of MAA.
Wonderful beginning of a great day. I think it was a power pack session, power pack speech for 20 minutes. And there were some striking statements like tech is easy, humans are hard. And we are exposed to a new word and a new way of looking at employee, that is employee centricity. We keep on doing training programs on customer centricity, but today we are exposed to this new word. So let us keep on pondering on these thoughts. Thank you, Professor Stephan Meier, for such an insightful and forward-looking keynote. Your emphasis on tech and human balance and employee centricity has set the tone for today's conference. Thank you very much on behalf of AMA.